Have you ever noticed that after a simple meal you feel unusually tired or bloated? Imagine that this could be an early whisper from an organ you might not think about every day. Shockingly, pancreatic issues rank among the leading digestive concerns for older adults, and many seniors don't even realize their pancreas is under strain until discomfort appears. Now, what if I told you that some everyday foods could be quietly wearing down your pancreatic health over time? In this video, we'll reveal which 10 common foods seniors should avoid to give their pancreas the best chance to stay strong. And you might be surprised by a few on the list. Before we start, let us know in the comments below where you're watching from. I'd love to say hello and connect with you. Now let's get started. Number 1, alcoholic beverages. Let's start with something many of us enjoy in social settings: alcoholic beverages. As we get older, you might notice that a drink or two can affect you more strongly than it did in your younger years. When you have alcohol, your pancreas needs to help break down the fats and sugars that often accompany a cocktail or beer. Imagine the pancreas working overtime. Over months or years, repeated demands can lead to low-level inflammation. You may not feel a big problem right away, but over time, that hidden stress can add up. If you ever felt an upset stomach or a dull ache after a night out, that could be a sign your pancreas was struggling. Now, think about how recovery changes with age. When you're younger, your body bounces back faster. But as a senior, healing from inflammation can take longer. So each episode of stress matters more. You might wonder, does that mean I have to stop drinking entirely? Not necessarily overnight, but now is a good time to reassess. Number 2, sugar-sweetened beverages. Now let's talk about sugary drinks, sodas, sweet teas, fruit punches, or those store-bought juices. You know how a glass of something sweet can feel refreshing, but here's the thing: liquid sugar enters your bloodstream quickly, and your pancreas has to rush out insulin to manage that spike. Now imagine doing that over and over. Each quick surge of insulin adds a little wear and tear on the insulin-producing cells. Over months and years, this pattern can lead to insulin resistance, which means your body needs more insulin to handle the same amount of sugar. When that happens, your pancreas works harder and harder. As a senior, you might already face changes in how you process sugars, so now is a good time to pay attention. Next time you reach for a soda or sweet juice, ask yourself, could I switch to water with a splash of citrus or unsweetened iced tea with a sprig of mint? You might be surprised how quickly your taste adjusts when you reduce sweet drinks. Number 3, processed meats. Now, let's move to processed meats. Items like bacon, ham, sausages, hot dogs, and deli slices. You might enjoy these for convenience or flavor, but next consider what happens behind the scenes when your body digests them. Processed meats often contain higher levels of saturated fat, preservatives, and additives that can stir up low-level inflammation. When inflammation circles around your pancreas, it can weaken its ability to function smoothly over time. Imagine your pancreas as a quiet helper. If it's constantly nudged by inflammatory signals, it can't relax and heal fully. As we age, that lack of downtime adds up. You might notice that after a meal heavy in processed meat, you feel sluggish or notice digestive discomfort. That's a subtle hint that your body is reacting. Now consider swapping some processed meats for lean, unprocessed protein, grilled chicken breast, fish, beans, or lentils. Next, think about habits. Maybe you have a deli sandwich for lunch most weekdays. Could you try a plant-forward version with grilled vegetables, hummus, or lean turkey breasts sliced fresh? When you cook at home, seasoning plain chicken or fish well can satisfy savory cravings without the additives. Also, when you enjoy a breakfast treat, perhaps replace bacon or sausage with a veggie omelette or whole grain toast topped with avocado and a sprinkle of protein like cottage cheese. Over time, these swaps give your pancreas less inflammatory burden. You still get protein for muscle maintenance and overall health, but with fewer hidden stresses. If you miss the taste of cured meats, try occasional small portions rather than daily servings, and look for options labeled lower sodium or without artificial nitrates, though even these aren't completely free of risk if eaten often. Number 4, fried and high-fat foods. Next up are fried and very high-fat foods. Think deep-fried items, heavy sauces laden with cream or butter, and foods drenched in oil. You may love the taste and comfort these provide, but let's talk about what happens when these foods reach your digestive tract. Your pancreas steps in to produce enzymes that break down fats. When you eat a particularly greasy or high-fat meal, the pancreas ramps up enzyme production to handle it. Occasional indulgence may be fine, but over time, frequent high-fat meals can lead to repeated stress and inflammation in pancreatic tissue. Now imagine your body trying to recover after each of these episodes. As you get older, recovery slows down. You might notice more discomfort, bloating, or a lingering sense of heaviness after eating fried foods. Next, consider healthier cooking methods: baking, steaming, grilling, or sautéing in a small amount of healthy oil. For example, instead of fried chicken, try baked chicken coated lightly with whole grain breadcrumbs or spices, which still gives a satisfying crispness without the heavy oil load. If you enjoy fries, consider oven-roasted potato wedges tossed with a little olive oil and herbs. When sauces call for heavy cream, experiment with alternatives: a splash of low-fat milk mixed with a little cornstarch for thickening, or pureed vegetables like cauliflower or zucchini to create a creamy texture without piling on fat. Also, pay attention to portion size. A smaller serving of a richer food combined with ample vegetables can satisfy you without overwhelming your pancreas. Now, think about meals out. Restaurants often use generous amounts of oil and butter. You might ask for dressings or sauces on the side, choose grilled options over fried, and request less oil in preparation. These simple tweaks reduce the digestive load. Over weeks and months, your pancreas can function more smoothly, and you may notice steadier energy levels rather than post-meal fatigue. Number 5, refined carbohydrates and white flour products. Now let's focus on refined carbohydrates: white bread, pastries, white rice, many snack chips, and baked goods made with white flour or loaded with sugar. These foods can be quick sources of comfort and energy, but they also cause blood sugar to rise rapidly, prompting your pancreas to release insulin quickly. Repeated sharp rises and falls in blood sugar can over time wear on insulin-producing cells. As a senior, you may already experience slower metabolism or changes in blood sugar handling, so now is a perfect time to consider how refined carbs fit into your diet. Next, you might ask, how can I make swaps that still feel satisfying? Start with whole grain options: whole wheat bread, brown rice, oats, quinoa, or barley. These release glucose more gradually, so insulin demand is gentler, helping your pancreas maintain balance. For example, when you make toast, choose whole grain variety and top it with protein or healthy fats like nut butter or avocado to further slow digestion. When craving a snack, swap potato chips for air-popped popcorn lightly seasoned, or raw veggies with hummus. For baking, try mixing whole wheat flour into recipes or adding oats and nuts to muffins or pancakes. Over time, your taste buds adapt to the nuttier, heartier flavors. Now think about portion control. Even whole grains can stress blood sugar if eaten in very large amounts, so pair them with vegetables and protein for balanced meals. When you sit down to dinner, fill half your plate with non-starchy vegetables, a quarter with lean protein, and the rest with a modest portion of a whole grain side. Number 6, high-fat dairy products. Next, let's consider high-fat dairy: whole milk, cream, butter, ice cream, and full-fat cheeses. Dairy can be a valuable source of calcium and protein, but when it's high in saturated fat, it can contribute to inflammation and insulin resistance over time. Your pancreas works to produce enzymes to digest fats, and if many meals include heavy cream sauces or large portions of rich cheese, that adds recurring demand. Now, as a senior, you might be more sensitive to high-fat meals and notice more digestive discomfort or sluggishness afterward. You don't have to give up dairy entirely, but next time you reach for milk or cheese, consider lower-fat versions: skim or 1% milk, low-fat yogurt, or reduced-fat cheeses. These still supply protein and calcium without as much saturated fat. For cooking, when a recipe calls for cream, try substituting with evaporated low-fat milk, a small amount of Greek yogurt stirred in gently off the heat, or pureed vegetables like cauliflower for creaminess in soups and sauces. If you love ice cream, you might explore small portions of frozen yogurt or fruit-based nice cream, made by blending frozen bananas with a dash of vanilla or berries. Now imagine making these swaps gradually. You might start by having 2 meals a week with lighter dairy preparations, then increasing over time as you discover what you enjoy. Also, pay attention to how your body responds. You may feel less heavy after meals and notice more stable energy. When your pancreas isn't overburdened by digesting large amounts of saturated fat, it can maintain its other roles more effectively. Remember, calcium is still essential for bone health, so if you reduce dairy, ensure you get calcium from other sources like leafy greens, fortified plant milks, or supplements if recommended by your doctor. Number 7, red and fatty meats. Now let's look at red and fatty meats, cuts like ribeye steak, fatty ground beef, lamb chops, and similar choices. You may savor the rich flavor, but these meats often contain higher amounts of saturated fat. When you eat them frequently or in large portions, your pancreas works harder to produce enzymes for fat digestion. Over time, that constant demand can contribute to inflammation or slower recovery from minor digestive upsets. As we age, keeping inflammation low is especially important. Next, you might wonder, do I have to give up red meat completely? Not necessarily, but think about moderation and preparation. When you do choose red meat, pick leaner cuts, sirloin, tenderloin, or flank steak, and trim visible fat. Also, small portions, for example, about the size of a deck of cards, alongside plenty of vegetables create balance. You might replace some red meat meals with poultry, fish, or plant-based proteins like beans, lentils, tofu, or tempeh. These alternatives can satisfy protein needs with less saturated fat burden. Now consider cooking methods. Grilling or broiling at high heat can create charred bits that sometimes contain harmful compounds. Instead, try gentle methods like baking, braising, or stewing, which reduce formation of those byproducts. When you marinate meat with acidic ingredients, lemon juice, vinegar, herbs, it can also diminish some harmful compounds during cooking. Next, think about mixing ground meat dishes. For example, blend lean ground beef with chopped mushrooms, lentils, or beans in meatballs or meatloaf to extend protein while lowering fat content. These approaches lighten the load on your pancreas without losing familiar flavors. When planning meals, fill most of the plate with colorful vegetables and whole grains, reserving a smaller portion for meat. Over time, you'll likely notice more stable energy and less post-meal heaviness. Number 8, trans fats and partially hydrogenated oils. Next, let's discuss trans fats and partially hydrogenated oils. Though many food manufacturers have reduced or removed these fats, they can still appear in some packaged snacks, baked goods, and fast foods. Trans fats are especially troublesome because they promote inflammation, raise bad cholesterol, and impair insulin sensitivity. When inflammation circulates in your body, it affects organs including your pancreas. Over weeks and months, repeated inflammatory signals can undermine the pancreas's ability to handle normal demands. Now you might ask, how do I spot trans fats? Check ingredient lists for partially hydrogenated oil. Even if a label claims 0 grams trans fat, if partially hydrogenated oil is present, the product may contain small amounts. Next time you shop, aim for fewer processed and packaged items. Fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and minimally processed proteins. When cooking at home, use stable oils like olive oil or avocado oil in moderation rather than margarine or shortening. Also, be mindful of fried restaurant foods, which may still use oils high in trans fats or reused oil that degrades into more inflammatory compounds. When you choose to treat yourself occasionally, pick bakeries or eateries that use healthier oils, or enjoy homemade versions where you control ingredients. Now think about snacks. Instead of packaged cookies or crackers with hidden trans fats, have raw nuts, seeds, fruit slices with nut butter, or whole grain toast with avocado. These choices reduce inflammation and help your pancreas avoid unnecessary stress. Over time, as you cut down on trans fats, your overall inflammation levels may decrease, supporting not only pancreatic health, but also heart health and energy stability. Number 9, sugary desserts and confectionery. Now let's talk about sugary desserts and sweets, cookies, cakes, candies, pastries, and the like. These treats often combine lots of added sugar with refined flour and sometimes saturated fat. When you indulge, your blood sugar can spike, prompting a big insulin release from your pancreas. Over time, repeated spikes and surges can make it harder for your body to respond normally to insulin, leading toward insulin resistance. As a senior, you may already encounter changes in blood sugar handling, so now is a good time to be mindful of sweet treats. Next, you might wonder, can I still enjoy dessert? Absolutely, but think about how often and how much. Instead of a large piece of cake every day, maybe save sweets for special occasions or reduce portion size. Share a slice or have a small serving. Also try lighter alternatives. Fresh fruit drizzled with a little honey, yogurt parfait with berries, and a sprinkle of granola or dark chocolate squares enjoyed slowly. When baking at home, experiment with reducing sugar in recipes or substituting part of the sugar with mashed bananas, applesauce, or spices like cinnamon and vanilla to add sweetness without as much added sugar. Now consider how you pair sweets. Having dessert right after a meal rich in protein, fiber, and healthy fats can slow sugar absorption and lessen the blood sugar spike. For example, a small piece of chocolate alongside nuts or a handful of berries with Greek yogurt balances the treat. Also, pay attention to mindless snacking. When you feel a craving, pause and ask if you're genuinely hungry or just bored or tired. If it's a craving, try drinking water first or having a healthier snack. Often the urge passes. When you do choose a treat, savor it slowly, noticing flavors and textures. Mindful eating helps satisfaction with smaller amounts. Over time, your taste preferences can shift so that you find satisfaction in less sweet options. Number 10, ultra-processed foods. Finally, let's examine ultra-processed foods. These are items that come in packages with long ingredient lists of additives, preservatives, added sugars, unhealthy fats, and artificial flavors. Examples include many ready-to-eat meals, instant noodles, packaged snacks, sugary cereals, and certain frozen dinners. When you eat these regularly, your body takes in a mix of ingredients that often drive inflammation, disrupt metabolism, and create swings in blood sugar. Your pancreas feels the effects. It must handle insulin demands from added sugars and support digestion despite low fiber and high unhealthy fat content. Next, ask yourself, how often do you rely on convenience foods for quick meals? It's understandable to choose them at times, but now consider building habits around whole foods. Start by planning simple meals, a vegetable stir-fry with lean protein and whole grains, a big salad topped with beans or grilled chicken, homemade soups or stews you can freeze in portions. When you have a plan and ingredients on hand, you're less tempted to grab ultra-processed options. Also, when shopping, read labels. If an item lists a dozen unpronounceable additives or partially hydrogenated oils, think twice. Next, look for less processed alternatives. Whole grain pasta instead of instant noodles, plain yogurt with fresh fruit instead of flavored cups with added sugar, whole oats instead of instant packets loaded with sweeteners. Now, consider meal prepping. Spending a little time once or twice a week to chop vegetables, cook grains, and prepare lean proteins can pay off on busy days when you're tempted by a packaged meal. You might freeze individual portions so you always have a homemade option ready. Over time, these practices reduce your intake of inflammatory ingredients and support stable blood sugar, easing the pancreas's workload. Additionally, whole foods deliver fiber, vitamins, and minerals that help digestion and metabolic balance. Next, when you do choose something packaged, look for simpler ingredient lists and smaller portions, and pair them with fresh sides like a salad or steamed veggies. Now that you know the 10 foods to steer clear of, you have a clear roadmap for protecting your pancreas and feeling more energetic after meals. Next, pick one item from the list and try swapping it out this week. Small changes add up quickly. I'd love to hear which swap you plan first, or if you've already noticed a difference when cutting back on any of these foods. Drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments and say hi again. Where are you tuning in from today? If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more practical health tips, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching, take care of yourself, and as always, keep bowling. Peace.